not just on this, but on a whole host of other issues too. So we're asking for you to work cooperatively with us, work together, and let's see if we can come to an agreement quickly.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Yule.
Yes, I just want to make sure I understand some of what has been discussed. Mr. Lowry, were you suggesting that a representative from the Selectmen be part of the collective bargaining? Is that what you were suggesting?
I would ask that also, when we discuss about how we settle the numbers. I think it makes a big difference. I think it really does that somebody from the board is there. I know we all have crazy schedules. I know that most people here have full-time jobs besides this. But we're open to doing it. We'll do it at night. I'll meet you at 10 o'clock at night if you want. If that's what we need to do to get it done, half the guys, protect the town, let's do it. I mean, we're not the big bad wolf. At the end of the day, we just want what's right, we want what's fair, and we're willing to work that out. Right? But I think it's very important. I think the last May, or actually February of last year, we had, Mr. Messeri was there, and it worked out. I mean, we were at the table, we could make decisions, to be quite honest with you. We weren't saying, okay, well, let's go back and talk to the board. Do you know what I mean? You guys are the people that make those decisions in the town of North Reading. I know Greg, I'm not trying to step on Greg, but at the end of the day, he has to go back to you to get that information. If somebody's there, we can get this stuff done a lot faster. I'm not saying you should do with every union, but this group, I think it's a good idea.
All right, thank you.
And Mike, I just want to also be clear, the idea of for everybody to start talking about the concept of education, I didn't think that you were thinking of having that in a CBA scenario, but just in a general scenario. That was my interpretation, that maybe we should all get together and see if we can come up with a concept of whether it be Quinn or whether it be a private town program or something like that.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me personally how we do it,
Right.
but I just want it to be clear that I'm not, at this point, I'm not supporting the Quinn bill. I will not support the Quinn bill. I support continued education for law enforcement in the town of North Reading, and I think we need to do that, and I think we need to support that financially. But we need to find a way that it's reasonable, sustainable, and it's beneficial for all parties. Because I don't think we can't, as a town, we can't rely on the non-committal of the state to fund Quinville. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the taxpayers. Because look, what's happening here right now with the Quinville situation, I think is absolutely the right thing. I think we're doing the right thing. They should be paid. We should try to find the money for it out of reasonable locations and get that done. That's done. To me, that's already done. Let's move on. We need to talk about the future.
Right.
We owe it to them. But at this point, we're in a situation where we need to make very, very difficult decisions. You look at the schools, all right? They need 5.2% more to get through next year. Water department's gonna need more, right? We had awful revenues with our water for the last 2 years. We had torrential rains one year, drought the next year. Okay, and I can go on and on for hours. And then you look at these unsustainable benefits that we've had in place. Our health assessment, 117% over the last 10 years. We can't keep on that trend. All the employees in this town can't afford us to keep on that trend. Because at the end of the day, they're gonna have no pay and just by 100% of it going towards health care in the future. And so I'm just trying to throw it out there so people know where I stand. So it doesn't come out that I don't support continued education for law enforcement. I do, but I don't support the Quinville because it's not fair. It's not right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Delaney.
I'll try to be brief. In a nutshell, I'm in favor of an educated police force, doing what I do on a day in, day out basis. I see the difference on when you have an educated officer, when you don't have an educated officer. It harms the whole system when you don't have an educated officer out on the street. So I'm in favor of the educational incentive. I wouldn't scrap the Quinn bill because we don't know what the state's going to do. The state refunds that up to where it had been. We can take a benefit of that. But we need to make sure these guys are made whole. My understanding is all but one of you have the Quinn bill. So we have the educated force here. That's important to this community. in terms of public safety. But I'd ask all of you, as you're sitting here, if you haven't already looked at what our town administrator has done in terms of the concessions he gave to this community, in terms of his recent contract that we just ratified this evening, I'd ask you to take a look at it. And I ask you, when you come to the table, Mr. Murray, you've indicated you're looking to work with us. Take a look at the concessions he gave. That's what we're looking for. That's what I ask you to do. I ask all the members, same thing. Take a look at the concessions that this man gave up. That's what we need. Based upon the current contracts that you have and the benefits that you receive, if you want the Quinn bill or that educational incentive to the level that you've received it over all these years, you need to take a look at where the town sits financially and what we need. We can't sustain those benefits any longer going forward. Gentlemen, that's what I'd ask you to do. Come to the table with those thoughts in mind. Take a look at his contract if you haven't already done so. Take a look what he's given up. That's what we're asking for. Thank you.
Any other comments, board members?
I think Mr. Delaney's comments really, not just for the police departments, for across every department in town, including our schools. I hope our school committee will take a look at that and take some serious action as well.
Anything else for the record on this issue? Are you through with town administrator's report?
Yes, I am, sir.
Old and new business?
I think there's,
Oh,
if I can
I'm
just go back to
sorry.
something?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I think Mr. O'Leary recognized that you were the first union who stepped up and took a 0 the last time around. That was appreciated by everyone who was sitting here at this time. That allowed us to get other things done. Okay? But we also reached an agreement where you guys turned around and sued us, too. So I don't fault you, like Mr. O'Leary, I don't fault you for protecting your interest in doing that. You had to do that. I understand that, like he does. But you were the first union to step up and take a 0. That was appreciated by the board as it was constituted at that time.
All the new business?
Old and new business, Mr.
I
O'Leary.
just have one thing this evening, and unfortunately, need to announce that a former employee, retired superintendent of public buildings, John Rush, passed away last night, and was a longtime employee of the town of North Reading. Raised a large family here of about 8 or 9 kids. 2 residents still living in town, Pat Fillmore and Kathy James. But John and his wife Alice, terrific people. John was a great public servant for the town of North Reading for a number of years, and regretfully, we have to announce that John passed away after a long illness last night. And again, his contributions are greatly appreciated, that of his personally, but also his wife Alice and family members over the years. So my condolences out to the Rush family.
Haven't heard much about John Rush in quite a while, Steve. Is he still living in?
Yeah, he's living in town, living in Peabody Court. Yep, Peabody Court. Great guy.
Anything
Nope, that's it.
Michael?
I'm all set.
Yes, I have a few things. First of all, the high school Maskers Club is coming up and doing a play called Barnum. The rehearsals that they're going through and the acrobatic show that they're gonna put on is gonna be phenomenal. And I have here, I don't know if you can focus on that, but they've gone to Simply Circus for training on how to do lyra, which is when you hang around a ring, something like Circus Soleil. It's going to be a fantastic play, and it's going to be February 25th and 26th, and it's also going to be March 11th and 12th, and Sunday, February 27th. So I just want to put it out there. I want everybody to see this. So it also supports the schools, supports the arts for the schools, and it's going to be very, very exciting. So if you can go any of those nights, you'll have a wonderful time. Bring your kids. They're also doing a winter carnival. You'll be able to throw pies in my face if you'd like, or throw a ball at a confetti. They can't use water, so it's a confetti bowl. So it'll be very exciting. And also, I do have a request with of the financial planning team. I'd like if you, I think I've mentioned it before, but I would like, because we're in such a budget constraint, we've got to consider everything. I would like for the planning team to consider reviewing the custodial services to see if they can have an independent outside services for the schools. There's some schools have begun to do that. Dover has done that. Actually, Dover, New Hampshire, to be more specific. There's a couple of other schools, the names escape me, that have begun to do that because there's been a cost savings. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a replacement of personnel. It's just a replacement of who's running it. So if you would consider that as part of your conversations with them, I would really appreciate that. Because, again, we're in a financial crisis and everything has to be on the table. And we spoke about the snow removal. I think that going over the costs for the snow removal budget, Greg sent me a fantastic email explaining a lot to me, but it seems every year, even before I was on the board, it seems such a hodgepodge of costs getting it done. One time it's the cost is $80,000, but for a few more inches, it's only $20,000 and so on. So I think we need to get a grip on that and how that functions, and if we can approach that and try to get a grasp of in the future so that we can manage these costs.
You could do it like they do it in Manchester by the Sea, where they're only plowing during normal working hours. I mean, it's a disaster.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean,
but you have to look at it. I think I looked at the overtime on it, okay, and I tried to understand the overtime. I understand overtime for town employees. I mean, if they're working 40 hours and then they work 60 hours, then they need to have overtime. But what I don't understand is if you have a private plower and he doesn't work for the town except when it snows, and he works on a Sunday, and I'm guessing here from what I could see, he gets double time for working on a Sunday.
No,
I
no,
don't
they
know if
get,
that's correct.
I
or not,
don't
but-
believe.
They have an hourly rate,
They get an hourly rate,
They have
whether
an
it's.
hourly rate.
depending upon the piece of
weekday,
equipment they're
weeknight,
using.
weekend.
Depending upon the piece of equipment, they get an hourly
They don't
rate
get
for the piece of equipment.
overtime on their end, so then
That's
whatever
between the
overtime,
employer and them.
so whatever overtime we see really is on our side. Okay, again, I found it a little bit on the confusing side, so.
I think, Jeff, after reading your email questions to Greg, I mean, it was kind of clear to me that you're trying to make this thing down into, you know, if you have a half inch of snow, it costs this, and so on and so forth. It doesn't work that way. I think Greg explained it to you, that it's a function of the day of the week, the time of the day, the temperature, you know, whether it's light snow, you know, lots of snow that's fluffy and easy to remove, or, you know, 2 or 3 inches of heavy slush, you know, the weather temperature. And then the other thing that's scattered throughout there is there are materials that are bought, and they're bought in bulk at various times, not necessarily tied exactly to a storm, but an expenditure that was made to replenish something during a storm. You know, I think that to try to break it down that way is just spinning your wheels. I think you really need to look at the overall amount of snow in a given year and what you've spent, and look at 2, 3, 4, 5 years back and see what's going on. With respect to saying, okay, you know, we'd like we're not anxious to get the streets plowed on the weekends. We'll wait until DPW is on regular time, you know. I mean, you could say maybe we'll save a few dollars, but think about the outcome. We may spend more because once, you know, you've driven over those roads, packed it into ice, you have a different kind of problem.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. I would just, for those that are still here, we're going into executive session for the purposes of discussing collective bargaining strategy. We will